Do you think it is wise for someone to borrow money to plan a wedding? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? Why should it be or why shouldn't it be? Let's talk about it in this video. So guys, I'll pick it up from where I stopped in the last video where I was sharing on tips to effectively plan your wedding. So I started by talking about the place of quality counseling. Now I'm going to move to the second point. The second point is, please plan your wedding according to your capacity. In other words, plan your wedding according to what you can afford. You must understand that the African proverb that says, sew your coat according to your materials, hold a lot of weight when it comes to the issue of planning a wedding. It's important you understand that it is not wise for you to borrow money to plan a wedding. You can do that if you have a very sure way of paying back, but financial intelligence will tell you that you only borrow money for investment, and a wedding is actually not an investment. It's actually a point where you spend without receiving. Some people say, don't worry, people will come to my wedding and they will spray me. Hey, please don't don't plan a wedding with the hope that they will spray you, because you might be shocked. It might work for you, it might not work for you. So it's important that when you're planning a wedding, you don't plan for like a 10 million naira wedding, 20 million naira wedding, and you just have 500,000 naira. You say, okay, don't worry, I'll borrow money, and on my wedding day they will spray me, so I'll be able to pay back. So I think that's a risk I would don't want to encourage anyone to do. So it's important that when you're planning, check what can I do. You and your spouse, you sit down together. What can we do? What can we afford? And try to plan around that. If God brings people, comes to help, that's fantastic. But if they don't come, please just do it according to your means and according to your resources. That's why I tell guys that it's important that when choosing a lady to settle with, don't choose a lady that her taste is beyond what you can afford. You have only 500,000 in your account, but the girl you're dating is looking for a wedding of 100 million. Will you steal? Will you take gun and go and rob a bank? It is important to understand that we settle with a lady that can meet us where we are and build with us from there. And also for the ladies, it's important that you don't say yes to a guy just because he can give you a luxurious wedding. See, what is more important is not the wedding, it is the marriage. So you check the guy's character, you check his heart for God first, not the kind of wedding. Wedding is just a few hours, but the marriage is for a very, very long time. So that's my advice for you. Recently, Pastor Kingsley Okonkwo recently proposed to his wife. He got her a diamond ring. He flew in a very popular musician to come sing for her. But 20 years ago, he could not afford it. He could not afford all that, but 20 years down the line, he can do all that stresslessly. So what I'm saying here to the guys is that you don't have to put yourself under pressure if you cannot do this or that for your wife during the wedding ceremony. There will always be other opportunities to prove to your wife financially as you grow in the journey together. And for the ladies, you can see someone like Pastor Mildred Okonkwo, who from the beginning, her husband didn't have so much, but she waited and she stayed with him. They built over the years. Now getting a diamond ring is just something small. Flying in a very popular singer to come sing for her is something small. So don't, because a guy cannot afford a luxurious wedding, and say that, oh, I'm not going to get married to him. Nobody knows tomorrow. So my advice here is plan within your means. If favor comes, fine, but don't put your mind on the money they will spray you on your wedding day. Now the third point is the place of prayer. You must understand that life is not an Hollywood movie. Life is a war zone. So you must be able to wield the spiritual realm in your favor, and how you do that is through prayer. We must understand that spiritual manipulation is real. There are a lot of people who started planning their wedding, but that wedding never took place, not because it was not God's intention, but because of spiritual manipulations. There are a lot of people that even when the wedding took place, they had a lot of challenges and they had to split up at the end. We must understand that life is deeply spiritual. So we must learn the place of prayer. I once heard of the story of a girl that anytime she decides to want to get married, the guy just dies. So she's had that more than 3 times as her experience, until prayer was made and she was delivered. Life is deeply spiritual. I was in a service one day. I saw this myself. So a girl was brought to the church. She had cancer. She was crippled, and all manner. She had a lot of ailment together, So the man of God was just laying hands on people who were sick, but he got to her. He had to stop because the Lord opened his eyes and he began to talk to her. He said, I see that a few months before now, you had what we call introduction. For those who are not in Nigeria, introduction is where the spouse, the parents of the soon to be groom and the parents of the soon to be bride meet up to plan the wedding. So he was telling her that, I see that a few months ago you had your introduction. She said yes. He said, but something happened during the introduction. One of our uncle came and was angry that his daughters were not getting married, and this small girl, in other words, his daughters were older than her, and this small girl is trying to get married. So in other words, he was saying that this girl is trying to get married. So he shot an arrow to her, a spiritual arrow to her, and this girl became sick. Even the guy who was trying to get married to her did his best with her, but at a point he had to walk away. She had cancer, she was crippled, she had all manner of ailment. My question is, how I wish this girl understood the place of the spirit where she was planning her introduction and also planning her marriage. How I wish she understood the place of prayer. That's why I want to really encourage you. Your bridal train or your men in suit should not just be people who can afford to buy a suit or can afford to buy the material you're using for your wedding. It should be people who are there, who can pray, who can stand in the gap for you. I think your important day, which is your wedding day, you should have a vision of having people who are not just dancing with you physically, but under their breath, they are praying in tongues, they are prophesying into your marriage, they are setting the atmosphere around you and your spouse with the presence of God. I think you need that because it's in what is spoken over you before your marriage goes a long way to affect the kind of marriage you're going to have. So it's important you understand the place of prayer and also get prayer partners around you as you get married. God bless you. We're going to continue in the next video.